Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today I'm going to be doing the Choose the Year book tag. This is an original tag created by Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures. She did tag me in her original tag, and I've watched a couple others do it, and I just think it's super fun. It's only 5 questions, which isn't very long, but I think each of the questions has a little bit of discussion that happens with them. So let's just jump right in. If you can't guess from the half of my shirt that you can see, the first question is choose a year and tell why. I was having such a hard time deciding what year am I going to pick. Should I pick the year I was born, the year I moved here to Richmond, the year I turned 30, whatever. Like, I was having such a hard time picking, and I was kind of glancing through a couple different of the lists on Goodreads. Then I went into Old Navy and I found this shirt, and it's 1994, and that is the year that I graduated from high school. So I'm like, I can wear the shirt. It was on clearance for maybe $3 or $4, so I'm like, it's totally worth it to have a shirt specifically for this video. And I graduated from high school in 1994, so that does date me a little bit. Number 2 is which books published in 1994 have I read, or if none, which ones have I heard of? So I did pull up the list on my Goodreads for 1994, and this is the top 200 books published in 1994 according to Goodreads. So as I'm scanning through here, I just this year in March read Walk Two Moons by Sharon Creech. This is a middle grade book, and it was lovely. It was a road trip story of a young girl with her grandparents going to find her mother. Her mother left, I don't remember how much earlier she left, but the little girl is wanting to find her mother. So it's a story within a story. Throughout their road trip, the young girl is telling her grandparents this story about one of their neighbor families. The relationship between the grandparents is lovely. It just was such a beautiful story. The cover is not super appealing to me, but I did read it and I loved it. Let's see if if I've read any others. Goodness. Okay, here we go. Number 45 on the list is An Echo in the Darkness, which is the second book in the Mark of the Lion trilogy by Francine Rivers. I absolutely love that trilogy. It is set during like Roman Empire gladiator time period. It's Christian fiction. I've read it multiple times. I think 2 or 3 times I've read through the whole trilogy, and I should do it again. It's been a long time since I've read that. Yeah, there's a ton here I've not read. I'll go through the first 100, I guess. I don't want to do more than 100. So out of the first 100, which is the only ones I'm going to look at, I have only read 2. So going back, there's a couple that are familiar to me. There's a nonfiction, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. I think I've hauled that and unhauled it multiple times. Every once in a while it jumps out to me at like a library sale or something, but then I don't think I'm actually going to read it. The Alienist by Caleb Carr jumps out to me. This has been relatively recently made into a mini series, and so it's kind of gotten a resurgence of people reading it. I have no interest in it whatsoever. Snow Falling on Cedars by David Guterson I recognize, but don't really know that much about it. Of course, there's a John Grisham, because he writes a book every year since he started. Nelson Mandela's The Long Walk to Freedom stands out to me. The Hot Zone, Origins of the Ebola Virus. I feel like I've seen a couple people reading that this year or last year. I don't really know a lot of these. Oh, In the Time of Butterflies by Julia Alvarez is actually on my shelves. It's right here. This teal colored one. I didn't realize that was written in 1994. That's cool. I own that one. Let's see, I'll just go up to 50 for recognizing them. At Home in Mitford, the Mitford series by Jan Karen. I've never read any of them, but yeah, I'm not familiar with most of these books, to be honest. I'm familiar with a lot of the authors. Sue Grafton, Isabella Allende, Stephen King was on there, Cormac McCarthy. Okay, so not very many are familiar. I mean, I was reading in the 90s, but what I was reading was I reading in high school? Classics because of high school. And I don't know that I was reading too much outside of that. So I wasn't reading like current recently published stuff for the most part. I'm sure I was reading, but I don't know what it was. I was going through a mystery phase maybe in high school. Like, I definitely used to read a lot of mysteries. Question number 3 is, are there any books published in that year that sound interesting, and would you read them now? So looking at this list, no. I've gone through it like 2 or 3 times and nothing stands out to me. Well, okay, that's not true. The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. I put that on my to-read list. I am currently starting Hum If You Don't Know the Words for the Buzzword Readathon, and I also read Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, which are both set and written about South Africa and during apartheid. And so Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom definitely appeals to me because it also deals with South African history and Nelson Mandela's story. Well, In the Time of Butterflies obviously is on my shelves. I would like to read that. This one, let me pull it out. I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen. Good gracious. This one is definitely appealing to me. It is set in 1960 in the Dominican Republic. It involves 3 sisters, and these 3 sisters are found at the bottom of a cliff, kind of by their wrecked Jeep. And it's a newspaper reports that it was accidental, but there is a 4th sister who lived. So it deals with, at the time there was a dictator in the Dominican and kind of a revolution a little bit, and the voices of these 4 sisters who kind of stood up against the politics of the day in 1960s Dominican Republic. So I have been to the Dominican once, and I'm going again in September, and I think that this would be an interesting book to read. Actually, maybe I'll take this with me. Maybe this will be the book that I bring along, but it will be interesting to read about the history of Dominican Republic. So yeah, this one definitely appeals to me, and I didn't realize it was written in 1994, which I said already. And a third book that appeals to me that I would like to read from 1994 is Mariana by Susanna Kearsley. She is one of my favorite authors I've discovered over the last few years. Susanna Kearsley almost always, I think, deals with some sort of time travel or parallel universes or some kind of playing with time, and Mariana is no different from that. This woman named Julia becomes the owner of this place called Greyweathers, which is sort of a portal between her current time, which I don't know what year it is, maybe 1994, and 17th century England, where when she goes through the portal, she becomes Mariana, a young woman struggling against danger and treachery and battling a forbidden love. And so she kind of goes back and forth between her current day and the 17th century England, and discovers that this past life is kind of taking over and eclipsing in a way her own life. She has to find a way to stop that from happening. In typical Susanna Kearsley fashion, I'm sure there's going to be romance and mystery involved with this time travel aspect. Yes, I'm definitely interested in that one. Now, moving on. Question 4 is, what is the most obscure sounding book? So let me go back to the list here. I think the one that I'm going to pick for this, for the most obscure, is Half Asleep in Frog Pajamas by Tom Robbins. That title and cover just kind of crack me up. It's a paperback original which describes a bizarre weekend through the eyes of a young broker who has just experienced a stock market crash. So that one kind of jumped out at me as pretty silly. And then the strangest book cover. I mean, that Frog Pajamas one is pretty strange. It's just a big old frog on the cover. It's kind of fun looking through all of these book covers and these books that I'm not at all familiar with. Well, that is it for the questions. Pretty quick, pretty easy. I am going to tag a few people for this. I'm going to tag Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand and Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library. I'm going to tag Lindsay from The Wandering Reader, Karen from Rather Be Reading, and Karen from Run Right Reads, and Robin from The Driftless Reader. I think that's 5 or 6. Yeah. So I'm going to tag all of you. I would love to see what year you pick and the books that go along with it. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to chat with you down in the comments about any of the books that I talked about here today or anything else that you want to chat about. You know I love talking with you down there. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll be talking to you in another video very soon. Bye!